Very good evening to all the delegates, ladies and gentlemen. I am asked to speak on the innovative funding mechanism of Indian Railways, but being the last speaker of the day and to maintain some sort of interest, I have I'll be highlighting a few of the bridge projects, and I know fully well that most of you are not civil engineers, so I made it in a very interesting format. So first I'll be speaking about some of the major bridge projects because I'm basically a bridge engineer in Indian Railways, a chief engineer bridges. So after that I'll be explaining about the funding mechanism. So basically about when we talk about the bridges, it is the long span bridges which are very critical. And to give an introduction about Indian Railways, you can see that there are different gauges in India. Broad gauge being the largest, we have meter gauge, narrow gauge, and even standard gauge on the metros. And the statistics are very staggering. We have over 65,000 route kilometers. It comes to more than 1 lakh, that is almost 100,000 track kilometers, and it's expanding. Every year, a lot of new projects are coming up. New railway tracks are being added. New Delhi is the capital of India. And Hyderabad, which I've highlighted, is the place from where I have come. When we speak of long span bridges, we should also know why they are required, because they are generally considered to be very costly. So we should not just like that go for a long span bridge. And these are the requirements for which a long span bridge is required. Navigational, when you have to pass huge vessels, that is huge ships across the ocean, and a bridge is to be constructed across the navigational channel, then we need a long span bridge. Sometimes you have to connect some valleys, 2 valleys, then you need a long span. Then in case of metros, it has to cross a major road junction, then you need a flyover of a very long span. So some of the important bridges which we have constructed is, one of them is the Zuari Bridge in Goa, which is a very interesting bridge. That is the location of Goa towards the western coast of India. The specialty here is the launching of the main girder. The main steel span is almost as high as 600 tons. So launching of the main span was a real challenge, and a very innovative method of making use of the tidal fluctuations, the low tide to high tide fluctuation, has been taken use of, and the span has been erected. This is the bridge after construction. So what has been done is, on the river bank, a specially made platform is prepared with some temporary supports. And on those temporary supports, the entire bridge girder, which is almost 125 meters long, has been erected. And simultaneously, a high capacity pontoon, that is a floating device, has been erected on the river, and the bridge truss has been slided into position on the river. And once it is on the pontoon, the bridge girder has been raised. This raising is to ensure that it clears the piers. And as I said, tidal fluctuation, variation has been taken advantage. So the tide is rising, and when the tide has fully raised, it is now towed into position. The red color structures on the behind, they are the supports. The bridge is brought into position, and now the entire operation is during high tide, and once it has come into position, it will wait for the falling tide, and the bridge is automatically launched. And further falling will reduce the supports. So the bridge is launched with very less effort. Full use of the natural tidal force has been taken. Similarly, the approach spans also are launched. This is the other side, which are smaller bridges, smaller spans. They are launched by means of cranes, which are mounted on, again, barges. This is a completed bridge. Similarly, there's another very challenging bridge constructed across a railway track. We call it a road over bridge, that is a road across a railway track. And it was constructed when it was constructed in 1996, it had the unique distinction of being the only the first cable-stayed bridge with a span of 180 meters. And that's the location with respect to India, almost southern part of India, in Bangalore. This is the span arrangement. We can see that one span is 135 meters, other span is 45 meters. So there is a huge imbalance in the two spans, as a result of which this abutment will have high uplift forces. The support there will have high uplift forces, that abutment. So it has to be properly designed to ensure that it will not get lifted up. So the innovative design, what has been adopted is providing pre-stressed cables. So different levels cables are provided, backstays which connect the superstructure to the substructure, then tie downs, then vertical tendons and rock anchors. So this entire system ensures that the whole bridge is integrated into the rock down below, and it has got adequate stability. And during the same time, the self-climbing jump formwork also has been developed to ensure that the work progresses smoothly, and the pylon head which connects all the pre-stressed cables is prefabricated. It is imported from Japan and launched in position. During the execution of the deck, because the deck has to be executed across the railway tracks, so a lot of safety has to be taken, not only for the construction personnel, but also the trains and the traffic down below. So three-level safety has been taken care of. We have a steel platform there. Below that, a safety netting is provided. And since it's an electrified section, a polythene insulated sheet is also provided. And the work has been successfully completed. Another interesting bridge is near a place called Rajamundry. It's on the eastern coast of India, in Andhra Pradesh. It has got 28 spans of 300 feet. 300 feet is 91 meters. And the bridge has to be constructed under perennial flow of water. The river is always with water, even during summer season. So a unique type of construction has to be developed because we cannot take any supports from the bottom. Once the substructure, that is abutments and piers, have been completed, temporary steel towers are erected on each of the supports, and from these towers, again temporary steel cables are erected. With the help and support of these steel cables and the towers, the first starting segments are casted, and further cables are erected, and cantilever construction of the arch is taken up in stages. And first, the arch is now completed in all respects. Once the arch is ready, the next step is insertion of hangers. The vertical hangers which take the load are inserted from the top. These are pre-stressed steel cables, bundle of cables. And then the pre-stressing girder at the bottom is called deck, is also cast, taking the support from the cables. This is during construction, and this is a closing arrangement, and this is the final bridge. So a lot of innovative local innovation has been made during the construction. This is for a Delhi metro, a bridge across, again, railway tracks. This is near New Delhi, which is the capital of India. This is how the bridge looks. You can see that the bridge, the main span is crossing the Indian railway tracks. Almost 4 to 5 tracks, electrified tracks are there, a very busy section. Always trains are running. And the bridge had to be constructed, again, without disrupting the train services. This is an extradosed bridge. What is an extradosed bridge? The definition is it's a hybrid bridge. It's a site innovative bridge between a cable stay bridge and a girder bridge. And again, it's on a sharp curve, and we should not have any disruption of rail services. No intermediate support is possible within that span of 90 meters. We cannot have any support. And this is the elevation, how it looks. These are the tracks. These are the Indian railway tracks, and over which the bridge had to be constructed. For the foundation, pile foundation have been proposed. But when we were executing the pile foundation, we had a problem of hidden utilities. A lot of pipelines were crossing. So instead of dismantling the pipes, an opening has been provided through which the utilities continue to be there, and the pile cap is cast in such a way that both the bridge is progressing and the utilities are not shifted. Substructure and pylon consisted of RCC columns, which had been constructed by slip form work. And superstructure is a U-shaped pre-stressed concrete segmental deck, which carries 2 metro tracks. And the launching has been done by twin segment launcher. It is similar to cantilever construction, but here the launches the segments. The segments are fed from either side, and here the launching takes place and it progresses from both the ends. Of course, a lot of safety precautions have been taken to ensure that the trains are not affected. And this is the final stages when both the arms are meeting at the center. A closure pour is made and the bridge is made ready for commissioning. This is the bridge at the time of commissioning. Another interesting case is about a steel bridge. So far we have seen concrete bridges. A steel bridge, Mahanadi Bridge, again on the eastern coast of India in Orissa state. This has also got spans of 300 feet, which is about 91 meters. Again, perennial flow. Since it is a steel bridge, the system adopted here is slightly different. The first span, which is generally a land span, is erected on a compacted ground because here the access is available for the cranes and for the material. The supports are raised to the required level and the prefabricated members are erected by means of the crane, one after the other, because the road access is available for the first span. The first span is thus erected by means of the road crane. The first span is ready, completed. Now the real challenge is for constructing the subsequent spans because they are underwater and we cannot take the road crane over the water. So what has been done is tracks have been erected in the top and bottom. You can see here this is a track and this is a track. And a small crane is erected on the top also, which can lift the members. And this is a dip lorry which carries the member from the one end to the other end. So this is the dotted line is the location of the second span. A temporary connection is made between the first and the second span so that the counterbalance is available and the track is extended and the members are fed from the end on the trolley and the overhead crane launches the members one after the other. So second span is completed. Now the process simply repeats itself. Temporary girder is now not required between the first 2 spans. Now it is shifted to between the second and third spans. And same manner, third span is completed, fourth is also completed, and all the spans, whatever spans are there, can be completed in the same manner. And this is the completed bridge. Now what is required is laying of the track on the bridge, and the train can take off. These are the pictures during the construction stage. You can see how the members are taken to the site. And this is the overhead crane, which is used for launching the members. Different stages. Temporary connections are made. Temporary strengthening of the members are also required. This is a completed bridge. This is one interesting bridge which is going to take place in the coming few years, which is called Chenab Bridge. It has got a very long span of 485 meters. And it's got a unique distinction of being the longest span of that size, of that configuration. You can see it's at a height of 359 meters. The approach construction is already under progress. As you can see, this is the location of the bridge. This is the approach. This is the location where the bridge is going to come up. The schematic view, it is still not completed. Unique features, it has got a lot of unique features. It is coming up in a place called Jammu and Kashmir, which is in the northernmost part of India. And the specific nature of that site is, it is highly seismic prone. It is in the highest earthquake sensitive zone. At the same time, the wind speeds are also very high. That's order of 250 kilometers per hour wind speeds. And it is in a very sloping bed. So a lot of design challenges have been faced. And finally, the bridge design is completed and it is coming up. Even for the wind load testing has been done in order to ensure that it is safe. And a model has been generated in the computer. It's a very complex type of model. And even for the erection of the arch, a very interesting scheme of a launching arrangement has been devised. You can see it's a cable crane as well as derrick. So this is a cable crane and derrick cranes. Both the cranes are used for launching it. As we can see this in sequential steps, how the arch is erected by means of the cable cranes and the derricks. This bridge is yet to be done, and this is the final schematic view of the bridge. That's about the bridge projects. Now let me come to the topic of the day, which I'm supposed to speak on, the challenges, the investment opportunities in India. So Indian Railways, from which I come, has developed a vision called Vision 2020. Under that vision, we have huge targets of construction of new lines, doubling or quadrupling the existing lines, construction of bullet trains, high-speed trains we call it, and all this at an investment of 280 billion USD, and it's already taken off. Similarly, something called dedicated freight corridors are being constructed, where new double-line electrified BG tracks, which exclusively for carrying the freight traffic, are being constructed. And that is a magnitude of work, total 4,600 bridges and 3,236 kilometers of track. And the axle load also is considerably high, 32.5 ton. And the order of investment is massive. These are the dedicated freight corridors which I have been mentioning. We have one on the eastern side and one on the western side. Similarly, there are two more corridors which are coming in the south also in the subsequent years. Metro rails. Metro rail is coming up in a very big way in India. Already in 8 major cities, metro work is progressing. And in addition, 8 more cities have already shown interest, and a lot of planning also has been made, almost about to take off. And separate authority is also being developed so that these projects are taken on the fast line. And a total estimated amount of 50,000 billion US dollars. It's a staggering amount of investment to be spent in the next 12 to 15 years. Something called high-speed corridors. This also is going to come up in India. 6 corridors have been identified. Survey is in progress in all the corridors. And this is the amount of investment, 1,100 billion. This in Indian rupees. And PPP model is being considered. A separate authority is being formed. These are the sectors for the high speed. Both it's distributed both in the north, west, and southern parts of the country. And this is the map for the metro. The blue lines are the new metros which are going to come up. On the red line, red stars are the metros which are already work isn't progressing or commissioned. Like Delhi is already commissioned. Bangalore partly it is commissioned. Kolkata is already running. Coming to the funding options, after a lot of planning, a lot of thinking, a lot of brainstorming, what the government has decided is it should be a two-form type of funding option. One is called internal, then external. Internal is totally from the government, and it is for such activities where private investment cannot be easily integrated into the system. For example, capacity augmentation. We have an existing track. We want to provide additional tracks for that. We have to improve the capacity. It is difficult to segregate the amount of investment, what will be the amount of returns. So in such cases, it's better to have our own funding, the government funding. Of course, the funding is from different sources. It is its own sources like surplus in high traffic earnings, borrowings from central government, because railways has its own budget in India and central government has its own budget. So there are two different entities as far as budgeting, as far as financing is concerned. So sometimes railways will go to the central government and borrow the funds at some rates. And specially created funds, we put some surcharge on some super fast trains, surcharge on some special trains, and whatever surcharge collected is put into some fund, which will be used for the following activities: capacity augmentation, safety improvisation. This is one activity which is attracting a lot of attention these days because of the importance of the safety. Similarly, signaling and communication modernization. These are the activities for which these funds are audited. And external funds. We take the external funds from mostly loans from World Bank, from JICA. These loans generally we take for a specific project, like I was mentioning about dedicated freight corridor. So we have a specific chunk, and World Bank or whoever is the lending authority, they will know exactly what is the project for, what is the investment for, and what would be the returns and the viability of the projects. And certain PPP models also have been considered, where the two types are there, where partial funding will be given by the government. We call it VGF, that viability gap funding. And in such cases where PPP models are there to make the proposal financially viable, a part of the railway land is also given for commercial exploitation for a particular specified period of time, amount of area. It's very clearly specified what will be the area given, and that much land will be given to the developer, to the entrepreneur, whoever develops it, for exploitation. And sometimes a JV or a special purpose vehicle is also formed exclusively for specified projects like metro rail, interstate high-speed routes. These high-speed routes are different from what I have earlier mentioned. That is intrastate, connecting state to state. This is within the state. Then connectivity to ports and mines. We have the main lines, but the ports and the iron ore mines, the coal mines, they left without any connection. So the connecting track between the main line with the existing railway network on the port or the iron ore or the whatever the industry, the connectivity is again between as a form of a JV, because there again it's a tangible sort of returns. We know exactly what is the traffic and how to share the revenue. Multimodal logistic parks. This also is coming up in a big way. The ICDs, we call it internal inland container depots and logistic parks. So even this has been totally being given to the private sector. A private organization can develop a logistic park, including the last mile connectivity, the rail connectivity from the nearest railway station, and the sharing pattern also is very clearly mentioned. So a lot of liberalization is taking place, at least in those areas where it's not directly involving the safety and integrity of the railways, and where we can very clearly demarcate the roles, responsibilities, and the revenues. BOT mode, of course, is a time-tested mode in India. In the National Highway Authority, for all the national highways, they have successfully implemented it. And in railways, Indian railways, we want to implement it for the high-speed corridors, developing world-class stations. A few stations have been identified to develop them into world-class stations. So those projects, then setting up of rolling stock manufacturing units, because when we increase the tracks, we need the rolling stock also to run the trains. So separate manufacturing units are going to be set up, and elevated rail corridors, which it is not the metro, it's only a rail corridor connecting 2 major stations within a city. It is not a metro, it is not a railway, it's elevated rail corridors. These are also going to come up, especially in Mumbai. So that's it. India is opening its portals. A lot of growth is going to come up. A lot of funds are getting infused into Indian infrastructure, especially Indian railways. And there's room for everybody. Thank you.